Hi, good evening. My name is Will Dailey, and you are watching Citizens Bank Live and Local. This is our fourth episode of Citizens Bank Live and Local, presented obviously by Citizens Bank and Crossroads Presents. We had Livingston Taylor, we had Dalton and the Sheriffs, and last week we had Still Gold. And this week we have Boston Royalty, my friend Kay Hanley. So as a reminder, Citizens Bank Live and Local is a new virtual series showcasing live from home conversations and performances with artists who all have roots in Boston and within this music community here. This series is brought to you by Crossroads and Citizens. And we are our fourth episode, and we're going to do questions and chat. Luckily, it's my friend this week, and we have lots to go over. We're going to be talking about Kay's journey from clubs in Boston and beyond around the world. And each week, you have the opportunity to participate in the very thing that is missing from our lives right now, and that's live music. We are in this prolonged absence of this thing that binds us despite language barriers, spiritual barriers, and all these things that keep us away from each other. Music is the one thing, and especially live music is the one thing that keeps us reminded that we're all in it together. And there's so many people who make that possible, and that's the crew, whether it be the people at the door, the people behind the bar, the people getting the gear in and out of these clubs every night, the sound people, light technicians. All these people are out of work, and we don't know when they'll be back to work. So what we are doing here with Citizens Bank Live and Local is getting donations for Crew Nation. Crew Nation was set up in conjunction with Live Nation to support the touring and venue crew members who have been affected by this temporary canceling of tours and the closing of venues. So you come in tonight by enjoying this evening with us in this conversation, but while you're watching, you're going to see something pop up on screen where you can donate, and then you text CB Live to 707070. And what Citizens Bank is doing is matching you. When you give up to $25 all the way up to $125, Citizens Bank is giving you club cash to spend at Brighton Music Hall, Paradise Rock Club, the Orpheum Theater in the future, when we are back in the room together, falling on each other, singing along, clapping, not always on beat. And what I love about that is you're helping someone else right now, and you're investing in your future of live music. So I'm going to bring it up again. I'm going to remind everyone, but if you see it, CB Live to 707070. So tonight, my guest is Kay Hanley. When I wanted to play music in Boston, the one band that was at the top of the mountain that you see before you as an artist, the band that you said, I need to get where they are. I want to do what they're doing. I want to reach people the way they're reaching people. That band was Letters to Cleo. And I never would have thought that the lead singer would end up being my friend, but she's more than a friend to me. She's a mentor. She's an inspiration. And she is someone who is a leader and a connector of not artists, ideas. And it's just an honor for me and a special night. We will probably laugh a lot and lose focus a little bit, but not too much. So without further ado, I'd like to bring in my friend, Kay Hanley. She's still there.
Hey,
She's still
well,
there?
I was there. That was quite an introduction.
Was it? Well,
It was
I feel so much
awesome.
better now. I feel better now that you're on the screen with me. I was so nervous. Like I have to do all these facts
I'm here, Will.
um
Don't worry, I'm here.
and my
No,
my
that
mentor.
was amazing. That was outstanding.
But it is true. Like
What's up?
when I started in music, you were the one who was doing it, you know? Um, do you have a first memory? These are questions I've never been able to ask you because I think in the beginning I
Because
wanted to be
we're always
cool and not
talking
ask
about
them.
other stuff.
Yeah, well, in the beginning I wanted to be cool. I think was the first time we hung out probably like at a hot stove, and then like 2010 I was at your house co-writing song. We were working on some songs, but
That's
I
right.
didn't
I
want to
didn't know
ask
you
them
very
questions.
well at that time
Yeah.
because Tom, you played at a hot stove in like '07, '08, maybe.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
think before I even played it, I stalked it. Yeah.
that's interesting. What a nerdy event to stalk. Well, I guess because you were a baseball person,
Right.
so that makes a certain amount of sense.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, then Tom Polchi had produced your first record, and we loved
Mhm.
it. And then you came out to LA to write, and we wrote in my
Yep.
studio. We sat by the pool. It was so great, and we've
So do
been
you
friends
remember
ever
sitting by the
since.
pool? I always wondered if you remembered sitting by the pool because I felt like I arrived. I'm by Kay Hanley's pool, and so I never got to ask the question like how when you started out and you have the band, when was your first moment where you're like, oh, we really have something here, like we're really breaking through, like in a city like Boston.
It's a good question. I think there were a couple of. It wasn't like sort of like, oh, we've arrived. There were a couple of moments along the way. Like I still am like, still haven't had that moment where I've like landed and been like, all right, I'm here, we're done. Like I've still have not had that yet. But I remember when we were playing this was actually pre Clio. It was Greg McKenna's and my first band, Rebecca Lula, and we were playing. We had like made tapes of our songs and stuff that how like your tapes would, maybe this kind of predates you too. This is like in the '80s, the late '80s. And so like our tapes would get around, and I remember playing at TT's. It was like a Tuesday night at like, or maybe it was like we had kind of like graduated to later in the week, like maybe it was a Thursday or something like that. And I remember seeing people in the audience that weren't Greg's family or like my mom singing along to the songs. And I was like, what? Like people who I didn't
Hmm.
know, like knew the words to the songs. And that to me was like one of the most moving, like surreal moments of my life where I was like, I felt like what I was doing was like up until then, I think I thought that like it wasn't real, that like this was
Right.
just like
Right.
this goofy thing that Greg and I were doing that was like completely stupid, and I should really be like going to work at the Edison and getting my pension up and running. um, but no, people like started paying attention, and then we got played on local emissions on BCN. They played stuff from our first tape, from first Letters to Cleo tape, was called the Sister tape, and they played a song from ours. I think they played Sister, and it was just like, what, like, and up until then Greg and I really, like, we weren't thinking in terms of like global, like we wanted to be like a global sensation or have like big hit records or anything, because
Right.
when you're from Dorchester you just don't think like that, or at least we didn't think like that. But our heroes were like Heretics and the Bags and like Tribe and like all these local bands that were playing at like big clubs, like Bun Ratties. Like we thought those
Wow.
clubs were like, if you could headline at Bun Ratties or like the Middle East, then you were like the biggest shit in the world. And so that was where we were aiming. That's where like our target was at the time. And so to feel like we were getting there was kind of amazing. So
And
those were the
I can't
moments
believe
early on.
I can't believe I never got to ask. I've never asked you these questions. This is amazing for me. So how long did it take? How long did it take? I mean, in your mind now, did it feel like you jumped from that Tuesday night to that Thursday night at TT's? Like, when were you at the Paradise? And like, this is now a full Paradise or something like that, or any of those rooms. Did that take a long
We
time
actually,
back then?
yeah, it did. It did. because we started Rebecca Lula, and Greg and I were in, or actually Greg started Rebecca Lula. Greg asked
Hmm.
me to, because Greg McKenna,
I know.
my cousin, many times removed, which is a very Irish Catholic thing. It's like we're 4 times removed. He was starting a band in like '88. And he knew that I sang with my mom at mass, and he was like, "Hey, you want to be the backup singer in my band?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to be the backup singer in your band." And so like we started doing that in like '88, and then like around 89, like a year or so later, I started writing songs. And then as soon as I learned how to write some songs, Greg and I kind of like got rid of that band, started. And also, I was never the lead singer of that other band. I was the backup singer. The bass player sang lead. And I don't know why I'm telling you this. You didn't ask this
No,
question.
I love
I
this. I love this. Come
So
on.
like, so as soon as I started writing songs, it was like I was gonna sing them. So like, in order to make me the lead singer of the band, we had to get rid of that old band, and then we started Letters to Cleo, and then it wasn't. So that was in '90. In '93, we released our first full length album on cherry disc, and it started getting played for real, like in regular rotation on FNX, not just the local show, but like regular during the day.
No, I
And
know because
at that
I was in high school. I just started high school and I was teaching guitar lessons for money, and all the students that were female wanted to learn Letters to Cleo songs. So I taught that whole record.
No,
And then
no.
I don't know how many years later, I'm in Chicago at the Metro taking Greg's place on like I think the first year you got was like 2011 or something like that, and I took Greg's place for just like a kind of a K set, kind of a Cleo set, and I was in my hotel just freaking out, like learning
Oh
songs
my
because
God.
Tom Poultry was playing drums, so I was like, all right, you're already nervous because I don't want him to yell at me, and and then I was playing guitar with you. um, it was just wild. It was a wild journey. But I just remember that album kind of taking over Massachusetts and thinking, well, if you go to Boston, you can do what Letters are doing. You can do what the Boston's are doing, or any of these
Mhm.
bands. So
Well, I
it's
had
funny
I had a
too.
situation kind of similar to that, Will, where I was like all of a sudden thrust into a situation where I was like a peer, but I was still a fan, and so it was
Right.
really hard for me to act like a peer. And it was in '94, and we had like a song on the radio and on MTV by then. And we opened for, no, it was before that actually. It was when we were still like, kind of like big shit in the local scene,
Hmm.
and on FNX. And we opened for Belly at I Endicott College. I don't know what it was, like a college show. And we showed up backstage, and Belly was just like, "Hey, Letters to Cleo," and I was like, "What?" Like, you've heard of us, like, you know who we are. And it was like, Tanya and Gail
Yeah.
and the Gormans. And I was like flipping out that like
I
Gail
have
and
chills
Tanya
about
were
this right
talking
now.
to me.
I
like
know.
like Tanya and Gail were talking to me like I was just like one of them, and I was like, what is actually happening right now? Like I have a chill too thinking about it. It was
I
like,
know.
so, and I was like, I walked in like ready to faint, seeing like Gail Greenwood and Tanya Donley, like we're going to be sharing a backstage with them, which I also was just like, oh my God, they're going to hate us. They don't like, I can't
I
believe they put us in
know.
the same room. And then like, and they were just like, what's up? And I was like, what? And it's
I know.
amazing to think like all these years later, like how, and I learned a lot from that too, because, obviously, when, and I'm sure you've had this experience too, where you have an opening band, and that they have a certain expectation, a certain amount of like anxiety and sort of
Hmm.
like insecurity about, overstepping their bounds or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And then you treat them kindly.
Yeah.
You're just nice to them, and just like
Yeah.
don't like, just because you're in a band that's popular. And look, I also happen to know that like when you're there's this trajectory and there's that trajectory. So you better be nice,
Yeah.
because the people who are, I remember who are those guys, the Florida guys that they're like the biggest band in the world. Shit, no, I can't. Oh,
Coldplay.
no, they're from Florida. Um,
There's a band from
this,
Florida. I
yeah,
I rode my bike to Strawberries Records and Tapes to get Belly's record because Feed the Tree was on the radio and
mm,
they were on the cover of Rolling Stone. And that was another thing where I just thought, wow, these are all the bands from like my hometown. And
yeah,
it really just it instilled Boston in my heart as a place to fight for. Um,
hmm,
and it's as the industry changed. I mean, you talk about being at TT's and seeing somebody that you don't know sing your words. And right now, if I'm ever talking to someone who's like 20 years old or 21 years old, and they say, "What should I do with my tracks?" It's like you have to get in a room of friends and play it for them and see their reaction. You have to get in front of people you don't know and play it for them and see their reaction. And we are missing, just like we're missing it right now, just by not being able to play live, which is something that's been robbed from my life that I've done for my whole life. I'm 6 months out
hmm,
of that reciprocal exchange that on a bad month, I'm doing 8 times. That's a slow month. I'm in front of
right,
people. And, and if you're, when I was 18 and 20 years old, the only place you could go do that was in front of people. And
yep,
so much of new creatives, young creatives, are making amazing and beautiful things, but some of them are missing that exchange and
right.
that signal back and that reciprocal exchange of energy and finding out what it means. Because you might have a song that you think is amazing and no one reacts to, and you might have a song that you don't think anything of and everyone goes crazy about, and you have to distill that and figure out what it all means, and it helps your creative development to have that human exchange. And it's just
Hmm.
weird to talk about it. I know when
That's
we're here fostering that exchange by doing the texting and everything. But it kind of I had to recognize and acknowledge lately how much of my cellular being is being robbed right now without that going on. And I'm not. You're much better. You talk about that roller coaster, right? The highs and the lows. To me, and from where I stand, you're really good. You've been amazing at figuring that out. You've walked away from a band, you walked away from a solo career and then did what you did next, which is what? And I'll let you say it. You
well.
did
I
songwriting,
mean,
TV, film.
the thing though is the sort of like secret to, like, it's not that I'm so smart that, like, oh, I'm just gonna get out while the getting's good. I'm gonna, like, I'm gonna stop while I'm ahead. It was none of that. Like, it really was like I knew that, and especially after I did. Well, let me back up a little bit. Well, I'll say what I'm going to say and then I'll back up. I had a goal
Please.
in mind, which was going behind the scenes. I never was happy. I was never truly happy about being the lead singer in a band and having to, like, my ability to make a living depending on my ability to sell myself as a product, or like, and I'm not saying that in any way that is negative. Like, some people are really, really great at, like, selling themselves in that way. I've always admired it and I've never been good at it. I always knew that I wanted to go behind the scenes. I had no idea how you would even do that. Again, it's like when you're from Boston and your whole, your family life, your education, your socialization, your being in a band has all been, like, all of that learning has taken place in a place like Boston, which is very
Mhm.
non-showbiz and kind of doesn't even respect that kind of ambition. I
No,
really,
it doesn't.
right? So, and I
No.
really bought into that, like, being in showbiz was actually very, very selfish and, just a silly thing to want. And I think I never wanted it for myself because I thought I wasn't supposed to want it for myself.
Mm.
Be that as it may, I knew that, like, I loved what I did and I'd be happier behind the scenes. And so when I started getting work doing like soundtracks and stuff like that. And especially when I got the job, which was amazing, for Josie and the Pussycats. And I saw how Babyface conducted his career, like what his career was, which was like being creative 24/7, but being the boss and being completely in control and like being hired for his creativity. Whereas like being in a band, it was never about that. It was like you could make the best record in the. I mean, my history is littered with people who are more talented than I am, that write better songs, are better singers, and just never made it because they didn't get that lucky break, or their A&R person got fired right after their record was done. You know, there are all kinds of things play into your success or lack thereof that have nothing to do with your talent. And that is a really helpless feeling for me. So
Yeah.
anyway, after Josie and the Pussycats, I for me it was like going behind the scenes and working as a person who like work for hire was my jam. And at this so
Hmm.
at the other, a decade, actually, Jesus, Zoe was 2 when I made that. So like almost 20 years ago, I made that decision to like move behind the scenes. And 20 years later, I am, I write music for cartoons all day, every day.
But you
It's,
keep,
it's awesome.
but then you keep all those gears greased. You stay in
For
the
sure.
zone of being creative, of being open. Also, doing work like that allows you to be. People think it could stifle your creativity, but I imagine that, and the times that I've done stuff like that, I just worked on some soundtrack stuff because someone asked me if I did um, scoring, and I just lied and said yes because I needed the work because it's COVID and I'm not playing any shows,
You should
and
be
I faked
doing
it.
that.
What?
You should be doing that. That's awesome.
So I faked it until I made it, and I found that the process of doing that just allowed me to be actually more free than thinking about my own messaging or sound or soul or anything, and just making
Yeah,
music that has no repercussion on who I am. It kept, oh
totally.
my God, it was amazing.
Totally. This is what I
Yeah.
say all the time. It's like my ego is completely stripped from the process. It's like it's a
Hmm.
pure creative exercise, divorced from any self consciousness, or, it's like when you're doing scoring or writing songs for picture, it's like it's not about you, it's someone else's creative vision, and you're trying to help them get there with your music. So it's like
Yeah.
really, there's sort of like this, like, I want to help them. And that kind of rips and all the selfishness out of it.
Hmm.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and so, but you were able to, I know you, so you had all the solo records. There's like 3 solo records, right? Is it 3 solo albums or two?
Two
Cherry
solo
Marmalade.
albums and a couple of EPs.
Yeah. But then like this whole Letters to Cleo kind of appreciation society took root, which is part of that. Tell me if I'm wrong. But
Continue.
why is that funny? To me, it's part of that roller coaster. And tell me if I'm wrong. But like, all right, you go, you do these other things. You think like this thing you invested all your heart and soul in, and time in a bus touring around the country, doing all these things, and you did connect with people. But as you said, maybe it wasn't what you wanted. You weren't certain as who you wanted to be. Being in a band is overwhelming. All these things need to go right. To be the band that can make a living forever, so many things need to go right that are out of your control. And
Mhm.
all the things that are in your control also need to go right.
Yeah.
And you went through an amazing exclamation point with a band that is fortunate and was made a mark on people like me. You go solo, you do TV and film, and then all of a sudden, like I think one thing I'm really sad about is in November I'm not going to Letters to Cleo show at the Paradise, which
I
is turned into
know.
this thing that was like a regular thing of the past 3 years where there's just so much. There was so much music at these things, and so many people getting together, and then the new material, which some of the most exciting material you've done, and some like Nebraska's such a ridiculous song. It's still there. It's all still there. All your work came back. It's almost like just that cycle, like you're saying, that dip. It goes away, but the work you did as an artist, the connection you make with people, it it endures. It keeps going, and it's hard to remember that as an artist all the time because you go on these
Yeah, I
highs
think
and lows.
I don't know how people maintain that creative spark when it's all about this one thing, which is like a band, like being in the same band with the same people doing the, even when you reinvent yourself, it's just like, I don't know. For some people, I'm sure it works, but for me, it's like being creative is not a given.
Mm-hmm.
I don't wake up and like feel that like I'm gonna make art today. It's like I have to keep, I have to keep like boiling the gears, greasing the
Mm-hmm.
gears to keep that. And the best way to do that, I have found, is to live a full life, and
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of experiences. And even if I don't write about those experiences, it's like I have to like go away from the work, go do stuff, come back to the
Mm-hmm.
work. And with Cleo, the thing that really held me back in that band was this feeling that I as I said before, it made me unhappy and uncomfortable that that was how I was going to make a living. And once that profit motive was removed from the equation, it became joyful again. And so
Mm-hmm.
it took 17 years off to kind of come back to that. But writing with those guys is really fun. And Michael and I actually, well, of course, then there was the other thing that in the middle of all of that, Michael and I split up. So,
Mm-hmm.
and we were creative collaborators. And when we split up, it was very, I have to say, it was easier for us to figure out how to co parent our children than it was to develop the kind of trust that it took to write together again. Is that
Mm-hmm.
crazy?
Not
So,
not at all. I don't think that's crazy at
right.
all. I think being in a band is exercising all the things that you cherish or feel like you are missing in a family as you developed as a human being. And
Mm-hmm.
when you are creating that harmony within the music, you're also trying to either repair things that were missing or exact things that you think the way they should be. And both of those can be detrimental to the process of making art. But when you're aware
Mm-hmm.
of it and you really communicate within a band and you talk things through and you have healthy existences with each other, then you can make great art. But so I don't think it's
And
weird at
and
all.
in creative collaboration, like real creative collaboration, requires like this whole other level of trust
Hmm.
that is not really definable, but
Right.
you have to have it, you know.
You guys have done an amazing job. I love you. I love you both. You both like been um, so instrumental in my I want to say career, but that's not the right word. But just faith in doing this, I guess, and faith in
Thanks, Will.
getting it there. No, no, I mean, yeah, I feel like I don't ever say that to you, but I feel like I'm gonna whoever's watching right now, I'm just gonna say that more often during this program. I have a whole closing thing where I might cry that I'll just read from the script. But
Okay.
um, so, and
We got
then
a good
yeah,
thing,
we developed.
Daily. We got a good thing.
What's that?
We got a good thing, Daily.
We do.
You
We
and me.
do.
You know.
We I think actually in 2010 you sang on a record of mine through Tom Polche. Do you say Polsey or Polche? Everyone says it different.
I say Polch or the
Polche, okay.
Polch.
The Polch,
Polch.
yeah.
Like Dolce,
Um,
Dolce and Gabbana, but Polce.
yeah, you went in and sang on a record of mine, but I wasn't there. You went into his
Mm-hmm.
office at CBS and sang on my record, which was already a home run for me that was happening. But then Hot Stove has been an adventure for us um,
Yeah,
every year. This year was special and an adventure in itself, just getting it going. But you started Hot Stove. You were there from the beginning, right?
that was so Hot Stove Cool Music. For those of you who don't know, is a charity event that began in Boston. Um, uh, as a fundraising benefit for Peter Gammons, who's a very famous baseball writer, Hall of Famer, and he wanted to start a charity like a lot of his journalistic peers and a lot of his, the people in the sports world have their big annual fundraisers and stuff. Um, but he like hated golf and he was never going to start like a golf tournament or whatever. And he loved music and he loved local music and he loved playing guitar and the blues and huge music historian, so he wanted to have a concert. And so in 2000 he just put together a crew of people that he knew to help him do it, and I just happened to be one of them. And I'm so lucky that first year that we had the benefit, it was just like, it was like me and Michael and Jeff Horrigan and Casey Riddles and Gammons and like a bunch of other people who had no idea how to have a benefit, how to have a fundraiser or an auction. And the Paradise was nice enough to let us have the concert there. And 6 weeks later, after it was conceived, we played. And I think the event raised like $25,000. And we were like, done. That was amazing. But then it was like,
Yeah.
then Theo Epstein came to town and everybody was like, oh, about Theo being a 29-year-old general manager of a major league ball team. And he wanted to get involved. And the next thing you know, it's got like all these like real people running the event and beautiful.
Hmm.
I mean, the music, our beautiful, amazing Boston music community just like locked arms with these very, professional, charitable, you know, whatever
Right.
you call them. They're just amazing. People like Elise are like, you know,
Right.
I mean, she is a professional charity runner and she just does an incredible job. And so we've been doing it for 20 years. And then when Theo left the Sox and went to the Cubbies, when was that? Is it possible it's been 10 years that we've been doing Chicago?
It might be
It,
like
close.
11,
Eight,
2011.
eight.
I didn't go the first year, and then I went the second year, so 12 or
Yeah,
13,
I
right?
didn't go the first year either, but yeah, the second
Yeah.
year. I just remembered that in 2015 or 2014, when we did that, you took a bunch of pictures of me and Michelle Grubbs, who is the woman who is the subject of Back to Nebraska.
Hmm.
And I see those pictures all the time that you took of us. And we were like, so like, well, like just like having the best time
Yeah.
and posing. And you were like, you're, you were just,
I
so
think
many
this
memories.
I ended up in the wrong dressing room. That whole time.
Probably.
But that was the
Probably.
year, and that was the year I played in the fake Clio, where I was the rhythm
Yeah,
guitarist. So
that's
the year
right.
after that, I was playing with Eddie Vedder, and I wasn't half as nervous as the Letters to Cleo one because
That's
I don't know.
funny.
It was my friends, and these it was just really heavy, and I knew Tom was like, "Don't mess this up," because
Just
he's like my
easy.
older brother. He's not mean to me, but I was the Tom got my act in shape and produced. I produced my first record on my own when I didn't know what I was doing, and then he took my second record and beat me to a pulp. You know how he can be. He's a genius and he's a brilliant
Yeah.
musician, and So he always pushed me like a big brother, and it it did shape me, and it keeps me going. And he's part of this circle of friends that I have. Like, even when I'm creating music, I'm like, I can't wait to play this for Tom. I can't wait to play this for Kay. I can't wait to see the reaction. Just like that reciprocal thing, like you talk about those early gigs. You want to know, you know me well. If I can bring a song to you tomorrow and say, Will, that's it reaches you, then you know those your gears and your purpose is still, you know, aflame and well oiled, so to speak, as we've been saying in this. But yeah, I was nervous for that first one. And then since then, so Hot Stove, that goes to the foundation to be named later,
Mm-hmm.
which is what Theo and
Yeah.
Peter
So the
began
foundation
to help.
later is that is Theo and his brother's charitable organization. It's an umbrella that houses a bunch of different charities, mainly tailored around kids and families.
Mhm.
And then it also houses the Gammon Scholars. And so since 2010, Gammon Scholars has sent, I don't know, 200 kids to college. Like, it's
Yeah, like
nuts.
it's
It's
nuts.
insane.
It's nuts. And so
Yeah.
much so that there's kids who are now there's people who are now adults, successful lawyers, account, all
Yeah.
these things, who are mentors now to the kids of this year. And this year's been especially trying because we had the online event. We usually have it at the Paradise. Then we have it at the Metro
Or
in
at the
Chicago.
Metro. Yeah.
Yeah, and we raised all the funds that we need, and we are able to do it online this year, and we'll have to do it online. And we would be at the
Oh,
Paradise in January, February.
the
I
weird,
know.
it's kind of like, selfishly, I'm just like, it really sucks that we can't do the event in person. Like, we
I
don't
know.
know when, which kind of like dovetails perfectly with what we're doing right now, which is raising money
Yeah.
for Crew Nation. Um, because I mean, I want so badly to go and see live music, and I want to like
Hmm.
play at Hot Stove. I want to be with my bros and my sisters, and just like, I mean, I love Hot Stove so much. I look forward to it twice a year. It's like literally my favorite thing that I do.
I know.
At the same time, we raised more money with the online event.
And less
So
expensive. Yeah.
yeah, which we actually really, really, really needed, because the kids, who the Gammon Scholars, a lot of them are from underprivileged families, so they, like, they got to school and then immediately had to get home. And like a lot of kids who are scholars, like their families can't necessarily, don't have access to
Hmm.
um, internet. They don't have laptops at home. So Elise, God bless her, she took it upon herself to like intervene on behalf of the Gammon Scholars and make sure that they got all the stuff that they needed to be, evacuated from school and to distance learn in their homes.
Yeah, because
A lot
usually,
of families lost breadwinners to COVID. Like, we know that communities of color are exponentially more likely to face, um, you know, the worst of the consequences of COVID.
Mhm.
So, it's like the foundation to be named later is
It's taken on a
incredibly,
new
yeah,
importance with this.
urgency. Yeah, for sure.
And we would do things like we would go into, um, we would go to Alston and see the kids. I go to Zoomix all the time, and I work with Zoomix all the time, who's another beneficiary of the foundation to
Yeah.
be named later. And we get to like celebrate every year. And this year it's more, or we have like real emergencies right now, and our event is more important than ever. But at the same time, all the kids get to be at our show and be at the Paradise, and they get to see something. We see those kids play their first gig in a club before we go on. And I just think,
And
if I had had
crazy.
that opportunity when I was 16, I would have. I would have I would have melted right there.
How old were you when you
So,
started playing Xbox?
well, I would do like, all the indie things you could do in Northeast Massachusetts. There was a place called the Red Barn. There were some coffee shops you could play at. So 15, 16, and then I remember my first summer in Boston, going to UMass Boston. Shred was the guy at WBCN who did
WCN, yeah,
Emissions.
of
Yeah.
course.
I had a crush on a girl who loved Letters to Cleo, and Sarah Mann, like Sarah lived with Sarah Mann, who's a singer. She's still a singer now. I saw her.
She
She
just
sang on
got me a job.
Frozen.
I just did
Really?
a singing job that Sarah recommended me for. I never do singing jobs, and like
That's
she
so funny.
recommended me for one. It's just so crazy. Thanks,
And
Sarah.
I moved. I started a band with my friends from high school, which was like one of those like loyalty bands without a vision. You know what I mean? It was just these are my best friends, so we have a band, and I just wanted to be in a band. And in our first 3 months in Boston, we went from playing someplace called, I forget, it was like 330, 835 or 335 or something like that. It was just a bar that had bands, to the Paradise in 3 months, because
Oh wow.
we were all in different colleges in Boston, or working jobs. Two guys worked jobs, two guys were in school, and we did one of those shows at the Paradise. We had to pre-sell your tickets, and whoever
Oh yeah.
pre-sold the more tickets out of the three bands headlined, and we headlined the Paradise. We sold like 500 tickets to our, because
What?
we would have
Did
we would have
500?
yeah, we would have apartment parties and play until the cops came. We just did everything wrong, and we weren't good. Good, like we weren't. We were
We weren't
18, and
good.
yeah. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, we're at the Paradise, and then it was we broke up like 3 years later, but that was
And here we are.
and here we are on Autops. Don't forget to text CB Live to 707070 to donate. The reminder is that when you donate to help, I'm going to jump up from my explanation of this and say, I was doing all that streaming stuff in the beginning of this when I was playing from my shower,
Yeah, yeah,
and I was
yeah.
raising, and I thought like this thing's going to last a month, and I had my friend Joe McMahon, who's a bartender at Great Scots. I had friends who were bartenders at the Paradise, uh, and everywhere else, and I said, all right, I'm going to do a show a night to raise funds for non-salaried employees. And I remember setting up a couple nights to play live, like in this room or in my shower, where
I remember.
I'm hooking up all these cables and stuff. I'm doing everything by myself, and you're in the panic of the onset of COVID, and you're thinking the world's falling apart. And I just remember, if there's just somebody here to help me set up, I would feel less alone. And then I had this whole, oh my God, that's why I'm doing it, because I'm trying to help the people who usually help me. Well, not that I've ever taken them for granted. I'm always saying thank you, and I understand how important my monitor person is. I understand how
Yeah.
important front of house is and the lighting person. But to be doing something where it's like, oh, I'm doing something every night, like I'm on tour. I actually started to smell bad when I was doing that thing and not sleep well, just like I was on tour regularly. But and to think, everyone who does that work loves that work. They get to see music every night,
I mean,
and so
I mean, my home has been, the because of COVID and the decimation of the live touring business. My household income has been cut in half. I mean, Clay, my
mhm,
fiance, his company,
mhm,
toured with, he spent all of his time touring with Eagles and Kiss. It's like he was on the road 200 plus days a year. And it just went away like overnight. His
yeah,
entire career, the two decades of investment in a career, literally wiped out overnight. Luckily
yeah,
for Clay, he had other things that he was like trying to accomplish, and some other ideas that he was able to just like be like, all right, now it's time. And he was able to, with the help of the unemployment for a couple of months, was able to kind of figure out some new stuff. I mean, he's not whole by any means, but there
Mm-hmm.
are some people who have been wiped out,
Mm-hmm.
because of, this entire industry has been erased, and we don't, and as you said, we have no idea when it's coming back. Crew Nation is, I mean, it's not enough, that's for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
someone's doing it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
something,
Yeah.
it's enough money to like pay, you know, a, your phone bill and your internet and buy some groceries. And like sometimes just getting through the month. I mean, I know this just from my family's experience. It's like just something to help get you through the month and get you through to next month. It's like sometimes that's all it takes. And
And just
so
having the idea that there's somebody out there looking out for you is also a big lift sometimes, and
yeah,
knowing that there's people out there doing it. Crew Nation has raised $15 million so far, and that's gone out to 15,000 people around the world, 15,000 crew members around the world.
oh
And
my
when you
god,
donate, you see it right there. Text CB Live to 7070. When you do $25, what Citizens Bank is doing with the Citizens Bank Live and Local, if you do $25 all the way up to $125, they're giving you club cash to spend in the future in some bright, sunny, beautiful future where we can fall back on each other, share a microphone, and not worry about getting sick and all this stuff and sing along and clap out a beat. They'll match your money to spend at the Paradise, at Brighton Music Hall, or the Orpheum Theater with club cash. So you're investing in someone
that's
else right now by participating, and you're investing in your future of live music. Um, and you know who my guest is next on the next episode in 2 weeks?
oh,
Tanya Donley.
someone.
Tanya
Oh,
Donley.
see, you saved the best for last. I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Um, do you want to play a song for me right now? It's just you and me. Nobody's watching. Will
No
you?
one.
No
Yeah.
one.
That's why I just. Oh, what? I just happened to. I wasn't sure what I was going to play because I just wasn't sure what I was going to play because I have a lot of
You can
songs.
play more. You can play more than one.
I'm not playing one. I'm playing one. You want to know how come? I have the worst allergies in Los Angeles.
Hmm.
Like there's something that happens like this time of year. So right now I feel like my eyes are pressed against like I feel like my brain is too big for my skull. Like I have so
Hmm.
much pressure. It's really, and I feel like I can't, you know what? It doesn't matter. so so we were talking about how you said you mentioned Back to Nebraska, the last Letters Cleo EP, and then I remembered that you took pictures of me and Michelle. So that just kind of like keeps the door open to that's the song I'm going to play. So this song is about She and I got to know each other in 2010. We became very good friends, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer, very very aggressive breast cancer. And the time that we hung out together in Chicago, it had gone into remission, which was amazing. So that was kind of like the last straw for us when we all were hanging out in Chicago together. And she died a year later. And so it will be 5 years in November, 5-year anniversary of her. She was 51 years old, the most beautiful person inside and out. And anyway, I wrote a song for her. I don't, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm just going to play it. Well, when they beat up strangers, cheating, dirty minds In an instant, we are friends. All night, each new morning, fizzy light. Greatest things I never knew. I learned from you. Stay emerged from the first. Got to find what we lost. Forever after, back to Nebraska. You thought I forgot. I called you up to say how sad I've been. I needed to hear your voice. I feel you here all the time. Your hands in mine now. Everywhere I go, I will never be fine. Forever's a fault line. My flight arrived. The doctor said you couldn't die. Pick me up in that crazy ride, and we laughed until we cried. A year of grace, teeming life beneath the waves. I held your body like a spoon and died with you. You thought I forgot. I called you up to say how sad I've been. I needed to hear your voice again. I feel you here all the time. Your hands in mine now. Everywhere I go, I will never be fine. Forever's a fault line. Said I feel so lost. He said, yeah, I do too. There's nothing left we could do but get right with the silence. You're gone, I forgot. I called you up to say how sad I've been. I needed to hear your voice again. I feel you here all the time. Your hands in mine now. Everywhere I go, I will never be fine. Forever's a fault line.
That is a beautiful song. I think all your songs are beautiful. I think your approach and the sound of your voice brings me comfort, and your approach to melody is always inspiring. But that song, especially, since I first heard it, since I had the chance to play it with you, um, and just watching people's reaction in the audience when you play it, uh, it's astounding. And I'm glad to call you my friend. And thank you for everything. And thank you for doing this. And
Thanks, Will. Thank you for doing this. And I just love you, brother. And anytime
I
I get the
love you.
chance to spend time with you, I just love it.
I know. Like right now, I would actually be probably, I was supposed to play at Ohana Fest on Sunday, which means I would
Ah,
probably be crashing at your place tonight and
probably.
playing Los Angeles or something like that. But here we are, doing what we can.
Here we go. Yeah,
Um,
next year.
well, next year we'll be
Mhm.
back in the clubs. Thanks to everyone who's watching, um, and thanks to everyone who donated to Crew Nation. Um, in 2 weeks I'll be with our friend Tanya Donley.
Yay! I'll be watching.
Who,
I love Tanya.
yeah, and we're gonna
If
do
there
it
was
with one of the.
if
What's
there was
that?
an awesome, delicious friend contest between you and Tanya, it would be a tie.
I understand how it would be a tie. I get it. I get it.
Love Tanya.
Um, I know, and that's October 13th, 7 p.m. Citizens Bank Live and Local. Um, I hope we see everyone watching in New England concert venue soon. Soon.
Yes. And
Um,
songwriters join Sona.
we didn't get to talk about Sona. Can you just tell
Talk
me
about
about?
Sona. Can I tell you quick?
Yes,
Sona.
please.
So Sona is a songwriter advocacy organization that protects the value of songs and songwriters in the digital music business. Songwriters get uniquely screwed in the music streaming economy. We love streaming. We love the streaming platforms. We use them for as consumers and as performers and as professionals. However, the way that songwriters get paid, and the way we get to engage with when the power moves are made is historically bad. So Sona is trying to correct all of the issues that put songwriters at a disadvantage, whether it's having a seat at the table of ideas, when to legislation, to getting paid. Sona is on the job. So if you're a songwriter or if you just love songwriters, either join Sona or become a supporter. And we also have, I don't want to compete with Crew Nation, but we have the Songwriter Foundation that is giving emergency grants to songwriters who are facing financial hardship due to COVID. So if you're a songwriter and you are having financial hardship, please apply.
Mhm. Sona, Sona, and like I said,
Songwriters of North America is that.
like I said, leader. You're a leader. You're a mentor. You're a friend. You're a beautiful songwriter and stunning performer. And I thank you for every opportunity you've allowed me to hang out with you, be in your presence. You supported me so much over the years, and I can't explain with words actually what it meant for my confidence and the ability to endure this business, both in the knowledge that you share and also just the love that you give. So thank you.
Thank you, Will.
See you soon. Thanks to Crossroads Presents. Thanks to Citizens Bank and Crew Nation. This has been another episode. I'm Will Dailey. That was the brilliant Kay Hanley. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you so much. And stay safe. Take care of each other. And see you soon. I'm going to take the elevator down.